Hi everyone, I'm Agnes Watkinson, the co-founder for NextGen Professional. I'm here with Aleksandra Bis. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes. Aleksandra Bis is good. Bis is good, yeah.
Perfect. So I'm here with Aleksandra Bis. We're going to be introducing, I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, but I actually met Aleksandra at a Women in Technology and Trades event at Mohawk College. And the reason that I chose you to come onto this segment is you had a vibrancy about you. You obviously have a passion for the industry. You're young, there's a journey and a story that we would like to tell that is familiar to maybe younger women or women thinking about going through construction and technology programs in their younger years. But you had this passion about you, and I think that was really great, and it resonated with myself because I do have a passion for the industry. So that's predominantly why I wanted you on this show, because I wanted to showcase that energy and that vibrancy about the industry. It's very evident. So before we introduce you and get started, I have a couple of stats here that I usually let people know, and this is just generic information everyone can get from the internet, so I have it written down here. So we can start with, percentages. So the percentage of women in construction overall has been hovering in North America, has been hovering somewhere between 9% and 10%. That's from 1996 to currently it's at like 9.9. I did actually talk to, I think it was OSET. This is going back about a year and a half, and it was a women's event at OSET. And they said during one of the speeches that OSET and technologists and engineers are now represented at a 14%. Women are represented at a 14%. So there is some sort of incline happening, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. We're also talking about the different types of areas where there's different percentages of women being represented. So here I have building inspectors, 14% women, painters, 7.2% women, helpers, which I'm not entirely sure what that entails, but we're going to go with helpers, 5.6%, and that's the largest percentages of women in participation. I have heard globally we're at about 4%, so that's not the best number, obviously. So these are just some of the different, I would say, information that we're getting right now, and as much as those numbers are different across different countries and in different cultures, I think we can all get the picture that it's not nearly where it needs to be to represent women in the field where we do have a stake in the game. We can participate in this. So Alex, can you please do me the honors of introducing yourself and what you're currently doing?
Okay, hey, thank you. Thanks, that's a really nice introduction. I really appreciate you saying that, the vibrancy. Yeah, so my name is Alex Bis. So I work at Walters Inc. in Hamilton, Ontario. And I've been here for, I think, 5 or 6 years now. I did my first co-op at Walters many years ago. And yeah, so I've been here for a long time. And after working full-time in detailing for a bit, I really wanted to get out there and kind of meet more people in the community. And so that's how I found Women in Technology and Trades. And I really liked meeting you at that event. And that's why I spoke to you first, was when you spoke about your journey, you had so much passion and drive, and more than I women, especially us being a minority. Some of us can be a little bit more timid in this industry. So seeing a woman like really go for it and just kind of not let anything stop her was really inspiring. So I was really inspired by your story too.
Kindred spirits.
Yes.
Wonderful. And so, this actually leads into my first question, which is I kind of want to know where it started. So, my first question is, how did you get involved with construction? But what I'd like to know is, where did that passion come from? Is it as early as you were a toddler playing with Lego, or was it more high school? Like, what did that look like?
So it wasn't really, I never thought construction, never. I wasn't thinking 100% that way. I mean, I always liked Sims, building the house on Sims.
I've heard that a few times.
Yes.
I have no idea what it is. I now have to research it.
Yeah, it's 100% true. And then in high school, I was really drawn to math and art. So basically it was that's where it went. Was I didn't really know where I wanted to go, but in careers class, they're like, put in art and math and what you like. And it spit out interior design. So originally that's kind of where I was going to head. And because my parents were very much university focused, I found the only program that had interior design as a degree. And so I was going to go to Ryerson. And that was where I was headed until I got a co-op in an architecture firm. And then that's where I learned about architecture. And that was actually through high school. So it was more so one step leading to another. So then when I got working at the architecture firm, they told me that I could do interior design with architecture. So then I thought, okay, yeah, let's do architecture. So when I did apply to school, I applied for interior design and architecture, and that's where I was going to go. And because I was a little bit more of a science brain, which I didn't realize how much until later, I went into architecture. And then when I was in that program, I didn't really connect with it. I had issues really getting like the design aspect. It was very creative and I was very technical.
Oh,
so,
I see. Because that's probably your math brain coming out, right?
Exactly. So I was way more math than art that I realized, but I had to try it in order to see that. I really loved learning about building. Like I loved understanding physics and learning about construction, but I felt like I was being pushed to design something and I didn't really know the basics yet. So much more engineering than I realized. And it wasn't actually, it was my boyfriend, because my parents were still very much pushing me to keep in university, said, like it's just a little bit hard, but when I checked in with myself, I didn't want to go back. I wasn't happy. And then when I found Mohawk, my boyfriend suggested it. I thought, you know what, this is smaller class sizes, more hands-on learning. I thought I really liked high school. I really enjoyed learning high school. I liked the class sizes. I loved my teachers, a lot of them. So I liked that part. But when I went to university, I struggled. So this was now smaller class sizes, more my style. When I went there, I fell in love with civil. I took civil classes with architecture because it's common. And I love serving. I love being outside. And that's when I was like, construction is really cool. And I just wanted to learn more. And when I found out that I could do it, because I didn't even think it was an option for me, I really didn't think so.
Yeah, and so I want to actually go back to your parents because, and I had mentioned I'm going to kind of throw in some examples from my life. Are your parents immigrants to Canada?
Yeah, Polish immigrants.
Okay. So Polish?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we are definitely kidding. So my parents are Polish as well. And it's like that, and for anyone who's Eastern European, like we're Eastern European, there's a stubbornness associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted the best for their children because my father's post-communism from Poland.
Same here, yeah.
And so, actually, no, sorry, my father is a 45 baby, so he's a baby boomer right after the war. He was in communism. My mother's post-communism. And so when they came here, it was like completely new world. This was the new beginning for them. And university. It has this prestige attached to it. And I talk to many women, men, it doesn't matter, who have immigrant parents who say the exact same thing. Their parents who came here for a better life for their family, like not forced, I don't want to say that word, it's really strong, but very much tunnel vision their children into university because that was an attainment that you could not get in some of these, kind of war-torn countries or post-communism countries. This was like that badge of honor that you have a university degree, but much to what you were saying, they might push you in that direction, which I was very much pushed, but I was hands-on. I would have probably done better in an applied course, learning a trade, learning something with my hands because I'm very hands-on. And, here we are in a theoretical university program, which is based on concept theories, creativity in that sense. But I think it has to do a lot with where they came from. And then to your point, I don't want to keep this away from you.
No, it's okay.
What does that look like for people who are interested in the hands-on or interested in construction, which we all know has this big myth around it? What does that look like? So how did your parents handle it?
Not well.
Sorry.
They didn't. My mom thought I was giving up on life. And like at that point, she was upset. And at that point we were not getting along. So I ended up moving out with my boyfriend, which kind of made things worse at the time because then it felt like I was really just abandoning everything. But it was more so because I was like, I know what's best for me at this time. Like I don't know, again, stubborn, so stubborn. And I was like, I know that you don't think this is right, but I have to try this, right? And when I went there, I just loved it. And it was maybe like a year. I started working for the college. I got a job helping organize events for the building and construction sciences department. I was getting really good grades. I was making connections with my teacher, and I got the job at Walters after 1 year. And I was one of the first people here to get a co-op after my first year, because usually it's after second year.
Yeah.
I was like really pushing myself and really trying to like do good. I think partially to show them, but also because I was passionate. And I really did connect with what I was learning, and I was really excited to get out there and get working. So once they saw that, they were like, okay, they see college is good. Now they're all on board with college. Now they're happy.
The world didn't end for our daughter.
No, and I mean, I went back and taught at college, so like that was
It's so funny how it works out in the end, but it's that journey to get there that's like, why does this have to be so turbulent? Like,
no.
Can you not trust that this is a good avenue? But I do think that there's a misnomer of college versus university.
Yes.
So, and because this is a women in construction conversation, I'd like to sort of explore both in the Ryerson program as well as in the Mohawk program. You're I would say relatively new in your career. Like I do this conversation with women who have 20 to 30 years experience, and that is a very different time going back to their high school and university years and college years than it is now. Can you tell me about sort of the ratios of men to women in your classrooms? Can you tell me about the presence of women and the instructors? Like, so basically, what was the ratio in your opinion of men and women?
I mean, it's on par with what's like out there for the statistics, that's for sure. I mean, I had a couple female professors here and there, but again, mostly men. Right. There was, architecture is more prevalent. There's more females in that course. And when we had it combined, I had a few more female professors, but once it got more into civil, it was mostly male professors. But they didn't treat me differently. There was no like I never felt sexism from them. I worked hard and I knew like I got what I deserved if I worked hard. So I never had issues that way. And then in terms of the class sizes, we'd say have about 100 students mostly throughout. And it was about, 10 to 14 girls. So a little bit more than average, but still, again, not anywhere near like 50 or anything, but.
Yeah. And you're saying 10 to 15 and some of the women that I've had that again have 20, 25 years experience, if not more, they're sitting there saying there was two of us, right? And is 10 to 15, 30 years later a better number? Like we have to look at that comparison. So I still think we have tons of work, to your point. Yeah. It's still representative of the numbers and the statistics. We have a lot of work to let women and girls, girls at very young ages know that this is an avenue they can explore. It's a very safe space for them to explore, and we welcome them. So you're in these classes, which we've now determined does have a higher male ratio to them. You have more male instructors and whatnot. Did you find a role model within any of your instructors, older students? Like, did you find anyone that you could think of as a mentor?
Very much so, yeah. I got lucky. Peter Olnick, who's a professor for many, many years at Mohawk in the civil program, he did a lot of good work for the students, organizing events. And luckily I had him for a semester for surveying, which is the class that, I fell in love with, which very hands-on. And it was also his approach, because he was very much the way he taught, he had that passion. He loved, he always gave us real world examples. He talked about his experience on site. He talked about his life experiences in his career. And he made everything very relatable for me, which is what I lacked so much before in my old program. And that's what it made it all click for me. And I was like, okay, I understand what I'm doing, and I understand how I can help, because I can physically see it. And because he was so inspiring to me, I used to just stay after class and I'd ask him questions. And he was the first person I went to when I was like, I don't really think I like architecture. I like civil. Like, what do you think? And so I would just stay with him and talk with him for a few hours here and there. And he's the one that hired me for the department. So building that relationship Yeah, and he's still my mentor. Like, he got me the job at Walters. I like still meet with him. I actually like met up with him before COVID, like gave him like a thank you letter, because he's just done so much for me over the years, and he's always supportive, and he never made me feel like I couldn't do anything. He always encouraged me, and yeah, he was a really good mentor. And I worked in his office when I was working for the department, so I always got to ask him questions, and that was huge for me, because having the relationship between school and work for me was really key. And that's what I liked about the construction industry, and that's what I liked about the program that I was in. Yeah.
So he got you this job at the school, which sounds amazing. You were planning these events, which, I mean, come on, we all love planning events.
Yes.
It's a fun time.
Yes.
But you got this job at Walters. This is your first real career start.
Mm-hmm.
What did that look like? I mean, starting within Walters, starting within the organization, how are you feeling at this point in time, so new to the game?
So terrified. First day of work, I was so stressed. I locked my keys in my car. I didn't
No, you didn't.
until I was leaving that day to call my boyfriend and be like, can you come pick me up? I'm in the parking lot. I don't want to go back inside because I don't want them to know.
It's embarrassing.
It was overwhelming, because it was just, okay, I went for a walk and I was working in field services. So an experienced person who'd been on site before, and he was a field coordinator. He took me on like a walk and was telling me about everything, about construction and all this stuff. And I was so overwhelmed but excited, because it was just this whole world that I didn't even know was so intricate, and I didn't know I could be a part of, and seeing how much equipment goes into just putting buildings together, and it was so exciting. But again, I was overwhelmed, because I was like, where am I going to fit in here? I didn't really know, and it took a while to figure out where I could fit. Like, I knew I was excited, I knew I liked the industry, but I didn't really know where I was until I got into this role as a project coordinator. That's when I feel like I'm like, okay, my skills are being used to the fullest in this position. So that was like another challenge. It's getting into the right industry and then figuring out where you can be best fit, because you can be excited about it, but it might not be the best job for you.
I have to 100% agree with you. It is an overwhelming industry, because when people think construction, when you're in school or when you're, a young kid, you're thinking kind of almost like with blinders on, like, oh, construction means putting up a building. But then you don't realize that there's field, there's estimating, there's claims, there's project management, there's structural, there's just so many facets of construction and divergencies within construction, that once you're in it and you're starting and you see all the different avenues and pathways, you're like, oh God, like, I wasn't prepared for this. Where do I go from here? So what was the first job? You said field services?
Yeah, that was like my first co-op, because I thought, I do not want to sit at a desk all day.
So can you explain to people watching what exactly field services is?
Okay, so in my specific role, because I work for a steel construction company. I don't know if I mentioned that. Walters is a steel fabrication and construction company. So we have estimators in-house, we have project management, and then we also have a field services team that works with us, and we can send them right to our site. And what's great about that is we are not subbing that work out. So we can work really good between our detailing all the way to being on site, installing it, and know that we're going to have this nice streamline. And so at that point, I was starting kind of at the end. So I'm starting in field services, which is now we have all the steel on site. Okay, but now how are we going to put it up? So, okay, you need cranes, you need shoring sometimes, you need special like lifts, equipment, sling chokers. So all those equipment, all those pieces that we need just to put the building together, that's basically what I was in charge of. So with the team that I worked with. So we basically made sure that all the tools are ready to go to site. And what I helped a lot with was organizing our filing system and our tracking system. So at this point, we were trying to get everything onto a digital system so that we could scan items and we could see what came in and out. And that was my role, was basically we cataloged everything, we tracked everything, we made sure it had all the right paperwork, and we put it onto the digital system. And now it's a lot faster for the guys to now up and go to site. But in that job, I got to drive a forklift. I got to operate the crane sometimes. I got to go on a man lift. I got to go to site. So I got to really see a lot more hands-on work. And sometimes I would just sweep the floors. But at that point, I just wanted to, you know, get in there and just see what was going on and just really be immersed in the world. Because a lot of things that I learned was just from site supers coming in and telling me what's going on their job site, what issues they're having, all those things. So co-ops, whoever's listening, co-ops, it's not about your job. It's about who you are around. And just you cling to people, ask people questions, because that is where you get so much information, is just asking to people. And that's how I learned more about the industry. And that's how I learned, oh, what's detailing? Oh, this is interesting. Maybe I want to go there. Maybe I want to try this. And then that's how I went into detailing. And I got my second co-op was in document control. So I was like, I want to see what the office is like. I'm not so scared of it anymore. Because at that point I was like, I'm not professional enough for an office. Like I just felt like, I don't know. I had this thing in my head that I was just like not going to be like, I don't know, fancy enough or something. I don't know. I just felt like I wouldn't fit in.
I get it. Yeah. It's an overwhelming thought. You're going to be with all these adults. You're just in school. Like you're early 20s, right?
Yes.
I want to know, again, coming back to these ratios of men, of women, are you cognizant of the fact that there's not a lot of women? Was there a lot of women? I'm making that assumption, but was there?
No, there was none. In this position, most of the guys had never worked with a female before. It was a learning experience for them and for me. I didn't know where I fit in at first, and they didn't know how I fit in first, but all I did was just work. That's one thing is that I want people to see about me, is that I'm a hard worker, and I wanted my boss to know that I wasn't just someone that was gonna, you know, slack around because I can't lift it, because I know that's not what he wanted to hear, and that's not the type of person that I am. And I think sometimes there's this maybe this question of what we're capable of as women, maybe compared to men, and I know sometimes that can be an issue. But I know a lot of times, like, there's a lot of ergonomics in everything that we do. So it's not supposed to be super hard to do the work. And if something is difficult for you, there is tools out there so that you don't hurt yourself doing something. But at the same time, I was willing to push myself. If something was difficult for me, I wanted to figure out how to do it myself. But that's just more so my personality. So I like the challenge. I like trying to prove myself. And it was like a fun experience, because you know, the more that my boss saw me working hard, the more he gave me, and I could just see his trust building. And I know that with people, you can't expect to be trusted right away. And that's one thing I've always tried to remember, is that I don't owe anybody, nobody owes me anything. I have to earn people's respect, and I have to prove that I can do the work. And that's in any job, and that's whether you're male or female. You got to prove yourself so that you can get more work. And it's not meant to put you down, and it's not meant to say that you're not capable. It's just so people know what you're capable of, and you have to show them that. And so as long as you can go into those situations knowing that, you know, whatever they may have pre-assumptions of you, and you have to show them who you are and why you're valuable, right? What you add to the table, and you're there to learn. So ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid if you don't. Like, I asked a lot of questions, and I would just sometimes just make a face like, what are you talking about? And then my boss would know, like, okay, I got to explain this.
That one didn't catch on yet.
Yeah, but he was willing to. And as long as you have someone that's willing to be there for you, he was another boss who was a mentor for me. I had a few actual bosses here that have been mentors, because I just ask a lot of questions and they're willing to teach me. And if you can find that, then that really helps.
Perfect. And so you make this transition from the field to your co-op. The second one is document control. And then, you know, you get your job with them, which is amazing that you went from this co-op experience, double the co-op experience, into a full-time hire with them. When you get hired with them, what's the role there? Like, what does that feel like?
It was detailing, and I actually want to say I did not get offered it. I asked for it a lot. All these transitions I asked for. So if I wanted to try something else, yeah, they were all for it. But you know, when I wanted my job, by the time I was done my co-op, I was like, hey, are you guys hiring? Like, here's a letter. I'm looking for a job. And then it took them a bit to get back to me, and then they did and said, yeah, we have someone in detailing. We have a position open. So when I started, I was in detailing. And at this point, I was doing 3D modeling. So drawings.
Wow.
Yeah, learning Tekla, which we learned a little bit about at Mohawk. So that's kind of why I thought I was going to like it, because I was interested in the modeling. And yeah, and it was something new to learn. I'd never done 3D modeling like with this type of program before. And I got to start learning on how to build these models, and it was really exciting. So that was a couple years of me just understanding how fabrication works and detailing and how the steel comes together. And that was really a good learning experience, which really helps me now as a project coordinator because I really understand a lot of details.
So where was the decision to get into project management, which is a completely different avenue of construction than the technical component of detailing? Like, where was that divergence? And obviously, I'm assuming again that this is now your career path is towards project management, mostly because I think you and I have had this conversation.
Yeah.
Why the shift from technical detailing, the more technologist architecture component of it into more of a management component?
Well, I started to work on some jobs where I was just basically applying this paint code to our model, and it ended up being a lot of coordination with the client between making sure that they had what they wanted. So for these specific meetings, it was just like a series of random meetings where I had a phone call with the project manager and the project coordinator and the client and the architect, I believe, maybe, and the structural engineer. And we all go on a meeting, and I would just go through the model and say, okay, here's all the paint codes. And I was just so organized, and I kind of ran the meeting basically. And the project manager said, hey, you would be really good in projects, because at one point he just left. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing an okay job.
On my own here.
So, yeah, so I was like, okay, like this was, and it was fun. I realized those days that I had those coordination meetings, like I was pumped. I was like amped, ready to go. I was nervous because I have a little bit of social anxiety. So like sometimes when I'm in meetings and stuff, I start to get nervous, but I found if I was just really prepared, I could just kind of get in there and just do it. And I felt really good, especially because I was kind of getting over my fears, becoming more confident, finding my voice in a meeting as well, which is really big. A lot of women struggle with that as well, to just kind of be present in a meeting and be vocal. And so I was being more confident. And then as I thought about it, I thought, do I really want to leave detailing? I'm doing a lot of good work here. I kind of like it. But then I realized those days that I had those coordination meetings, I was just happier. I just found that more so filled me up personally.
Yeah, so, and that's amazing that you were able to find that within, the same company, but B, within the same, industry, the same avenue. You're still working with detailers. You now have an information backing that's really going to solidify your position to the next level. You've got the technical component, and now you're working on a different skill set. I think that's a great combination that you've given yourself. Yeah. So now, you're a project coordinator now, which, congratulations, that's amazing. Thank you. You're working towards this career path of project management. What barriers did you face along this journey? And it doesn't necessarily have to be within Walters. I mean, did you face any barriers? Did you feel at any point in time, and I'm just poking and prodding here, but did you feel at any time when you were on site, when you were working with different trades, suppliers, different individuals, did you ever feel cognizant of the fact that they were hearing or they were aware of you being a woman?
Yeah, I mean, certain people I find, sometimes I feel that they're uncomfortable. They don't really know how to talk to me. So I just try and make other people feel comfortable as much as possible and try and be friendly, just to show, I don't bite, it's okay. Like, I think it's just as we kind of move into this age of where we're trying to be more vocal about getting more women in technology, I think men are just more aware that they need to, be careful of what they say sometimes. And I think that can be intimidating. So I'm just trying to make it so it's a comfortable space, because I never want to make anyone feel uncomfortable, especially just because I'm there. So I'm hoping that we can get to a place where, we're just kind of, we all go into a room and nobody really notices that I'm a woman. You do get it, you do get, you know, right? Like, it's just a feeling sometimes. You just have this sense that there's maybe like a little bit of hesitation sometimes. And I just try to, I don't know, do my best to just make everybody comfortable. But not necessarily within Walters, but I mean, even you're going to be meeting with clients, you're going to be meeting with different people. So that's something also to be aware of. Even if your company is very open and very welcoming, not every single company is yet, and that's what we're trying to push for. And not everybody knows how to, not make someone feel uncomfortable sometimes in those situations. We have to keep educating other people on how to just, you don't have to do anything differently. I think it's just being yourself. And I don't know, I want men to feel like they can be comfortable around me and not have to worry. I've always been like, just treat me like a guy. Like, don't, I'm not going to get super, upset over things you say, because I understand that you're coming from a good place. Most of the men too, it's more so their fear that they don't want to say the wrong thing. So
absolutely, yeah.
I just want them to know, like, it's okay if you mess up. It's okay if you say the wrong thing. We're all still learning. Like, I say the wrong thing too sometimes, right? And I'm not always inclusive, and I'm not always, but we're all learning, and we're just trying to learn on how to work together better. And that's why a lot of my focus as just for education is towards younger women, to just show them that there's a path, because I don't feel like we don't have the space for it. I feel like we just need to keep talking about it and just be like, it's not a big deal. Like, you don't need to worry. It's just keep talking about it and just keep learning more, right? It's just that education
to your point, to walk into a meeting and it doesn't have to be 50% women in the room. It's just, we don't want to be looked at differently or talked to differently because we're just so new to the industry.
Yeah.
And again, having this conversation with women who they are the only woman in their office of like 30, 40, 50 people, their conversation is, I don't want to have this conversation 10 years from now. I just want it to be accepted. Like, there's women in the field, we work with them, they do a great job, the men do a great job, and it's like we're all for the betterment of the industry and the general population, right? We're building buildings for everybody, or roads or whatever. So, I think you're right. Like, I just, you just want to walk into a space and just not really even have gender be an issue.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's taken this tone, and I don't know completely, and I'm just assuming, but sometimes I feel like it's so politicized that men are afraid to talk, or afraid, like, oh my God, if I look at her the wrong way, am I gonna get in trouble? If I say something the wrong way, and it's like, no, I just want to have a conversation. I just want to get through the work. I just want to do the work,
Yeah. And most of the time, the men that question themselves are not the problem. Because if you're questioning yourself, then you care. It's educating those that don't care. Just kind of be a little bit more aware that there is something that can be improved. It's trying to make sure that we can get everyone on board to see, like, you could be doing a few things differently, but that's hard, right? No one wants to change the way they do things. But I'm happy when I hear that at least someone's questioning themselves, right? Because that's the first step. You have to question yourself. If you don't, then there's no progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll pose another question. And this is something I bring up again in my other conversations, and I think it's really important. What qualities that are, I'm going to say inherent, and that can be, argued, but what qualities do you think women have that are inherent in us? Like, we have these qualities that we bring to construction that betters the industry. Like, what qualities do you have that you bring to a site or a meeting that as a woman is a very like womanly trait or character and helps you on site or in the office?
I really don't like that, because I feel like, honestly, it can apply to men and women. Like, I just don't feel like we fall in a box. I've met women who are one way and women that are completely the other way. But me personally, I'm very detail oriented. And maybe that's something that more women are, that they can like nitpick through the details, but that's what I'm good at. That's why I was good at detailing. That's what I struggle with. That's actually one of my kind of weaknesses as a coordinator sometimes, because I don't know when to pull back. So,
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes I get too into the weeds and I'm looking at all these details and making sure we're counting the right bolts. And it's like, you don't need to worry about that. Like, because we're trying to be more high level. You want to just know everything that's going on the project. So, but for me, that's where I'm good at, is I can go through the drawings and I'll make a spreadsheet and figure out all the numbers and be able to look at something and say something doesn't look right, and ask kind of those kinds of questions. Like when something seems off to me, I won't necessarily know what the answer is, but I'll question it, and usually that sparks a conversation. So
Right.
that's
Your
what I kind of
oriented kind of had that radar going that something's a little off, right?
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes that's a little too much, but yeah, that's one of those things that I'm good at, and pretty organized. Like, I don't know why I never thought project coordinator before, because I remember grade, like, I was 8 or something like that. I would like plan a birthday party to the T, like time, everything. Like it was scheduled, and it was like, there was a Bratz theme. It was a Bratz cake. There was a toilet paper dress game. It was all time. I remember at one point we got off schedule and I lost it. I was like, off track, we're delayed. This is a project coordinator thing to do.
My birthday's ruined.
Yeah, it's like I was always that organized, detail oriented, had everything in a plan. That's so project management. I never realized that until I got into it, that, you know, all those skills, like, you know, making sure everything's on track, making sure you're on budget, you're all those things, right? And and that's what I love about it, because I found when I was in detailing, I always wanted to know what everyone was talking about in the phone calls. Like I wanted to know what the big decisions were going on. I wanted to know what the big issues were on the project, instead of doing all this, just kind of like knowing what was going on. So that's why project coordinator is good. So I think as a female, to answer your question, detail oriented, sometimes time management, but some women are better at that than others. And then definitely organized.
Perfect.
What about you?
So,
do you agree with that?
I think that, and again, it's a very personal opinion, but I do think there are some things that women can bring to a table. As a majority, it's not all women and it's not all men. As a majority, my biggest one that my skill set is diffusing situations. So if it's a predominantly male-dominated area, I can come in as a female. I'm a very confident female, but I also know how to read a room, read the situation, and diffuse, you know, egos, or diffuse maybe an argument, because the presence of a female kind of giving direction, because I do construction management, project management, and the ability to come in as someone not over top, but maybe like on the same level as other people, and sort of say, hey, you know, okay, I see your point of view. That's a really good point. Let's consider it from this angle, or, you know, like have those very diplomatic conversations, and all of a sudden the tension rate in the room is like, oh, because it's not about one-upping someone. It's about, let's find a solution and let's carry on, right?
Interesting.
So that was a characteristic that I think I struggled with, because I can also be very headstrong. So I struggled with it probably my first couple of years in this area and in this field, and I learned to hone in on that, which it's so funny because at work it wasn't my skill set, but at home it was my skill set. So I ended up learning how to transition it from my home life into my work life, and that's a skill that talking to a couple of other women, they also have that ability to diffuse situations and really get to a solution. And it's not about who found the solution, it's about forwarding the project and making it move forward and making it for the betterment of the collective. So that's something that we found, and I found similarities with other women.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I feel like I have that, but I don't always I'm not always confident enough to actually diffuse it. Sometimes I do read it, like you say, where you'll walk in, you'll see what's going on, you'll immediately know who's tense and what's going on, and you'll be like, I'll want to do that, but sometimes I think being new, I just sometimes don't always say anything.
And that's a skill set. Like I said, I was not good at it at first.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to, not that you have to learn it, but if you do learn that skill set, that is an incredible skill set within a project manager, to diffuse like an owner, to diffuse a consulting situation, to diffuse a subtrade situation. Like you can use that anywhere, right? So it's something that you're gonna learn, and if you have someone in your office that's currently doing that, 100% be like, hey, I'm shadowing you. I'm going to figure this one out from you.
Yeah, definitely.
So I want to kind of go on to your, because you are so new in your career, and I want to hear, so far on your journey, what advice would you give to maybe some of the other individuals coming up through different programs, or even maybe high school students, because you're not like you're removed from that, but you know, you can still recall your experiences going through the high school system. Is that something you can give some advice to those individuals and the girls, the women who are thinking maybe that this is a career for them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely look at what your interests are, and like what you actually like to do for fun, like what you enjoy. Like I genuinely enjoy math, genuinely love it. So that's why math, no issues for me, right? And I loved art. So anytime I get to be somewhat creative and have that, there, a lot of creativity kind of comes into a lot of jobs. It's hard to say because I would basically just say do research, which I know kind of sucks, but more people you can talk to, ask them like what their actual job is and what, like in this kind of research, like go on, watch these videos of seeing where women came from and where they're going, because that's always interesting for me. That's what I love learning, is I love hearing where people started, because I started somewhere completely different, and how those skills tie into what I do now is really interesting. And a lot that's goes the same for a lot of other people. They can do one type of job and it'll end up leading them to something completely different, and that's totally fine. It's just be open to the possibility and just kind of go with your gut and what feels like it's something that's exciting for you. If you're excited about it, that's good. Just be excited. Like it has to be, I always say find your fire. You know, that's my thing. Find your fire and push yourself out of your comfort zone. You know,
Right.
it's supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to be hard. You're supposed to be learning. Always. It's if you stop learning for 1 second, you get bored. That's when, you know, you're not really having fun anymore. You want to always be challenging yourself. So don't be scared about that. Just kind of look at what you like, look at what excites you, and see where those take you, and do research and ask people questions and do co-ops. Anything with co-op is always good, because
Co-op's great.
yeah, a lot of people don't realize they don't like their job until they get out there. So that's why I'm more so focused on the actual job. Look at what the job is that you like, or the things that you like to do, and make sure that those programs have that. You know, if you're learning those skills, especially college, I know university is a bit different, but you know, if there's somewhere you want to go to and you know you need university programs, then, you know, as long as you're okay with knowing that's what you need to get there, that's totally fine. But just make sure you're having fun, because life is way too short to not have fun while you're in school, or while you're working, or while you're on your co-op. You know, you got to enjoy the journey.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, you honestly, you just kind of said the final piece. So, I was gonna, you know, have us log off soon and have you say something like, what are your final comments? But I think you just ended it perfectly.
Thank
Find
you.
something you enjoy, right? Find something you enjoy and pursue it. And, you know, if anyone watching this can take anything out of your journey was organic. You didn't have it entirely planned out. You had to go into different areas. You had to test it out. You had to take it for a ride. And that is where you find your passion, and that is where you experience things. So, you know, your journey might not be completely linear, but it's the perfect journey for you. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So, Alex, thank you so much for your time. I didn't want to take too much of your time, but this was really important for me to interview somebody of your age, of your area, and your career and your ambitions, because I wanted women who were thinking, or young women who were thinking about this as a career, to realize it's completely obtainable. You know, you haven't come across that many barriers. The space is different now. And I think you really did showcase that quite well. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really happy to help, and I love the work that you're doing, and I can't wait to see where Next Gen Professional goes.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, hopefully far and beyond.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later. And everyone, I will be putting up Alex's name. Alex, if it's okay with you, if there's some young women who would like to connect with you, would they be able to do so through LinkedIn?
Of course. Of course. I love mentoring, so no problem. Send me an email. I'm happy to help.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. Take care, okay?
Take care.